What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network, gearing up for the postseason, the wild card series, and of course, the Dodgers' appearance in the National League Divisional Series. Daniel Starkand joining me today. Daniel, there is a bit of some bad news that the Dodgers have gotten lately on the health front when it comes to a pair of relief pitchers and guys that, frankly, coming into the season, we expected to be huge pieces in the bullpen come playoff time, but news coming out this week that Yency Almonte and Daniel Hudson, are both out until at least the NLCS. No guarantee they would be available if the Dodgers make it that far, but both of these guys out until then. What's your immediate reaction when you sort of get this news that I wouldn't say is unexpected, but still confirmed?
Well, first of all, thank you for clarifying that it's Daniel Hudson. I was actually wondering about Brian Hudson's availability for the playoffs. Good to know he's in theory available if the Dodgers need him. He might be pretty low on the list there. But this isn't, this isn't hugely surprising. Like we're running out of time here. We're at the end of September. We're in the final week of the regular season, and in theory, anyone you want on the postseason roster, you probably want to see a couple outings from them beforehand, and there's just no time for that at this point. And we're going to get into it though. But when you look at the overall state, of the bullpen right now, it's pretty good. There's a lot of good choices. Obviously you'd like to have these guys in the mix. Like Almonte was great last year, was kind of starting to figure it out this year before he went down with the injury. Hudson, we know whenever he's been healthy, he's been really good, and he's got a ton of experience. He's been on the mound closing out a World Series before, so that's a guy you'd like to have as well. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be in the cards, at least until the NLCS. We'll see if they're even ready for that. But this is just kind of what you've come to expect with the Dodgers. I feel like every year it's like when talking about the bullpen, you say oh, we might have this guy and this guy and this guy back by the time October rolls around. And then it doesn't necessarily happen. Some other guys, Blake Trinan, JP Fireeisen, we're Alex Reyes, my guy Jimmy Nelson. Those are some guys we're counting on maybe being around by now. None of them are here, but the good thing is that the Dodgers still have a really good bullpen.
Yeah, and that was kind of the key point is as much as you can be bummed when it's man, Hudson, I would say, especially as a veteran and a guy who has just always been good. It's look, if he's healthy, can you get me through one simulated game of 4 batters, and then I'll throw you into an NLCS game and feel okay about it. Almonte, I'd probably be a little more worried. But the good news is on Sunday's show, we talked through who's in the Dodgers bullpen, and it's a pretty good group, and there's honestly some difficult omissions. If we're going with a 3-man rotation of Bobby Miller, Clayton Kershaw, and Lance Lynn, presumably, let's just say those 3 guys are on the playoff roster, you only have room for at most 10 more pitchers. Some teams don't go with the full 13 in the NLDS. My guess is because you've got the designated hitter, I still think they go 13, but they could go 12. But if they go 13, here are the guys that we're talking about. Evan Phillips, Brazier, Gratterall, Joe Kelly, Caleb Ferguson. I would say those 5 guys are absolutely written in stone locks.
100%.
Shelby Miller, Ryan Yarbrough, Alex Vesia, Ryan Pepio, Emmett Sheehan, all guys that I would say with 80 to 85% confidence are going to be in there. And then on the outside looking in, you've got Michael Grove. Kyle Hurt made 1 appearance, but it was a really freaking impressive appearance. Kevin Stone on the outside looking in. So, that's the thing with Almonte, especially. I'm looking and saying, if Almonte got healthy and was technically available, I'd probably take Michael Grove over Yency Almonte, given what we know right now. And you might even be able to convince me that Kyle Hurt, after 1 major league inning, was a better option than Yency Almonte. I would take Daniel Hudson over both of those guys, but I wouldn't take Almonte or Hudson right now over Emmett Sheehan, who's probably Ryan Yarbrough, who are probably the last guys on the playoff bullpen roster.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I think if this was last year, maybe Almonte, you'd push for him to come back a little more just because of how great he was last year. But that's not the Almonte we got this year. So it's who, like you said, those last guys, those are all guys that are pretty good. Emmett Sheehan, his stuff has played up out of the bullpen. We've seen that, and he also can give you length, and it's the same thing with Ryan Yarbrough. And when you're not gonna, in theory, you're probably not getting a ton of length out of your starters this postseason, especially compared to other years. You're gonna need guys that could come in and give you 2 or 3 innings, whether it be in a close game or in a lopsided game, whatever. You're gonna need those length guys, those low leverage type guys. Not everyone. you named before those you got to those guys, you named like 6 or 7 other really good relievers that you trust in any type of leverage. So I just think it's a tough roster to crack right now if you're a reliever, especially if you're not healthy and you weren't having a great year before you got healthy. So I think those guys are going to continue to try to, get to the point where they can pitch. And it's good to have that in your back pocket if you need it. You never know what other injuries might pop up, or maybe you pitch Emmett Sheehan in the NLDS and he gets rocked and you say, we don't want that in the NLCS, then you make a change. Just because the rosters are round to round. You don't have the same roster for every round. So those guys should continue to get healthy and with the mindset of wanting to contribute, but I just don't necessarily see it happening barring, an injury or someone getting rocked in the NLDS.
Yeah, and I think, Lance Lynn, we've talked about how bad of a matchup Lance Lynn versus the Braves could be. So if you get to the NLCS and it is the Braves and the Dodgers, maybe Lance Lynn doesn't have a great NLDS appearance, and you're looking at yourself saying, are we really going to do that again? Or would we rather go Pepio and add a guy like Daniel Hudson if he's available? I could see that scenario playing out as well. So I agree. The Dodgers, the good news here is it could be very easy to tell this story and say, well, crap, I have no idea. I guess it's Gavin Stone for that 13th spot, and you just cross your fingers and hope they don't need him. Whereas I actually think the Dodgers have 1, maybe even 2 guys on the outside looking in already that if you told me Michael Grove was on the playoff roster, I'd be like, that's great. Anytime they've used him in 1 to 2 inning increments, he's fired up the fastball to 97, 98 and been really effective. Yeah. And so the fact that we can say that, I think, makes me feel a little bit better. And I'm sure, which is why the Dodgers can say, hey, take your time. Like, we're not rushing this to the NLDS. See what you can do for the NLCS. If it doesn't work, keep working. And hopefully we're making a World Series run and there's room for them to make an effort at cracking the roster at that point. So let us know what you guys think below. I mean, do you have the same 13 pitchers? I guess at some point we could have the conversation. Do the Dodgers go 14 position players and 12 relievers? I just don't know which reliever I'd take off of that list is the tricky part. So that's Daniel Starkand. My name is Jeff Spiegel. As always, folks, we appreciate you for joining us. If you're a podcast person, make sure you find the DodgerHeads podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google. Subscribe, rate, review. We greatly appreciate that. We've got live shows every Sunday night that go to our podcast feed afterwards. We're going to have post-game shows after just about every postseason game, pre-game shows as well. So tons of Dodgers content coming your way. Make sure you're subscribed to DodgerHeads wherever you can find it. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. And as always, go Dodgers.